So hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another Assetto Corsa Competizione video. As you can see in the background, we're just watching highlights from a race I did at Monza. As you can see, I'm in the Ferrari Challenge car, and this car really does perform well at Monza. Not particularly great on many of the other circuits. I'm sure this is kind of the shot at a GT2 class, which are generally going to be quicker in a straight line, but overall I don't think the GT2 class is quicker. But here at Monza, it is an absolute beast of a car in a straight line. If you can manage to get it through some of the corners, I think once you're out onto the straights, it's going to be very hard for anyone in the GT2, GT3 cars to actually make a pass. So as long as you got it hooked up through the corners, it does go pretty well at Monza. I've not particularly found it very well at many other circuits, but Monza seems to be the sweet spot if you're enjoying the new Ferrari. But in this video, I wanted to look at just doing maybe 3 setups in each car, just to give you kind of somewhere to base your setups from. Just maybe a bit of insight into what adjustments from one setup to the next actually make at different circuits. I really have enjoyed, we're going to be featuring the GT3 M4, the 2022 car, in this particular video, but I have already done the Porsche and I think the Mercedes AMG 2022 car is the next one on my list. I have done a number of setups. If you've been watching the latest videos, I was doing some online setups and showing you some footage from actual races, but I just thought this format would be better, just doing them in a race weekend session, so I can keep the weather conditions, the track conditions, all the same for all the cars. That it's a much fairer test. Obviously we're all still suffering. I think we're in version 1.8.4.1 in this video, and there is a lot of dashboarding. A lot of people currently pausing their league, GT3 leagues, GT4 leagues, because it's just so inconsistent. I think there's definitely something wrong with the timing element of the game, because a lot of the crashes seem to be coming as you go over the start finish line. Definitely I've had loads of issues at Monza, Watkins Glen. Just this morning running a session, I've maybe done 3-4 laps and got dashboarded. So it is a little bit unstable at the minute, as much as the game is absolutely fantastic, and I'm listening to so many people that have come back to the game since they've stopped playing it in recent months, returning to the game in 1.1841 we'll call it, and just really falling back in love with this game. It really is something special for console users. I think it just brings such a realistic element to actually doing some sort of driving within the game. I know there's some people on Thrustmasters and Logitechs that are still not particularly happy with the level of feedback that they're getting, but on the Fanatec 2.5 Club Sport wheelbase, it's just phenomenal. I really have, even running the wheel, I think I'm running it, I think it's at 93%, which of 200, it's like 200%, so it's literally running at like 43% or something like that. So if I crank this up to its full 200% or 100%, it would be absolutely insane, the amount of force feedback through this wheel. So I know other people are struggling with their wheels, but for the Fanatec stuff, especially personally my own wheel, it's just off the scale with force feedback. So we're going to look at a few things in this video before I do the actual setups. As you can see, I've just been running at Watkins Glen, and you can see there in the middle for 1:44.6. I've got to be honest, it's the fastest car I've ran at Watkins Glen. This car just feels so hooked up round all the circuits. It just puts It puts a lot of the other cars to shame, to be honest. It's such an easy car to drive, in my opinion. If you're a beginner coming to Assetto Corsa Competizione, the BMW is definitely the way to go. I spent so long in the Porsche at Monza, Indianapolis, here at Watkins Glen, and I can't get anywhere near those lap times in the Porsche. It's such a hard car to drive in comparison. But we're going to just come into this session, and I just wanted to point out a few things that I'm finding people just don't seem to be aware of. So as much as I'm not going to look over the setup in this video, I've already filmed the footage and I'm just going to edit over those with some narration, I guess. But we'll just pull this setup into the menu, and I'll just head out on the circuit. As you can see, I think I'm running with about 14 cars on the circuit, which I think is a good number of cars when you're doing a track weekend. See 14 other cars, because you find if you start filling the grid up, it's very hard to get a lap in that's unimpeded by the other drivers, and you'll often find that when you've pulled out the pits and you're going to come round to do your flying lap, you're already getting issues with traffic. So 15's about a good figure, I think, for the number of drivers you want on circuit in your session. It is very hard otherwise to find a gap. So just a method that I generally use, that I wanted to share, is warming the tyres. Now, tyres is a massive part of 1.1841, we'll call it again. A massive part. Looking after your tyres throughout a race. I think people are finding that they can't just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, doing more and more laps, and it is all down to the tyre physics in the game. So one thing, I don't want to waste time doing lap after lap after lap to try and get the tyres into temperature. And like I've mentioned before, you wouldn't do this in real life. It would, as I've read before, it would just glaze the brakes. The drivers would never do this. But you see, I just start pushing on the brake pedal, only a tiny bit so that I can still keep momentum and we're still rolling. But if you look on the left hand side, I'm just going to bring the brake balance all the way down as far as it goes. Some cars will go to like 44, 46. In the BMW, 48.5 is as far as we can go. And you can just see the brake pedals will the brake pads will start to get glowing hot. You see them starting to go into a different range of green now. This Lamborghini's not sure whether he's going to go past me or not. But you see they're getting even redder, the front discs. I should really pull off the racing line and let these guys past. And now we're even into the red. And all that heat that's getting generated in the brake disc is just going to transfer into the tyre. So we're already into the 27s. And we could probably just start easing off now, because all that heat's going to now start transferring into the carcass of the tyre. So we haven't even done a flying lap. We've not taken any of the tread off the tyre. And we're still starting to get a nice bit of heat through the tyres. Obviously it's a little bit I won't say unbiased, it's a little bit strange how the tyres have warmed up, because they're all at different pressures. The front left tyre takes so much temperature at Watkins Glen. It's going to be a little bit lower in temperature initially, because it's going to be the tyre that heats up the most. But I've already got a good amount of heat into the tyres. You can see it's just that front left tyre that's not quite hitting the mark. But just a way to get your tyres warm, if you've got a full lap where you're warming the tyres, it's a brilliant way to get them nice and warm before you actually start the race. Another thing that I'm just pointing out in this video is, as you can see in the top right hand corner, I've got car control as my choice just to show me where I'm not getting the best out of my lap. Car control, I think, is probably, I think it's even gone down since I started using it. But just to show you, if I'm not going through corners absolutely flat out, you see it says they're very slow. Well, what we're looking for is very good. And it goes for a number of ranges of perfect, too much steering, too aggressive, very aggressive, good, we've got fine, we've got loads of different terms for whether you're getting the corner right or not. And it's a really good tool, I think, to know whether you're actually getting the best from your lap, whether you should be pushing harder. Just trying to get a better line there. So we've got fine. Still a bit wide through there. We've got okay. So we've got very good. That's what you're kind of looking for, really. Still not got that front tyre. Very eager to turn in there. Very aggressive, but it's a brilliant tool if you're not sure if you're getting the most out of the car. But it's recording all the time. Everything that you do, it's up there. So as you can see, the CC at the top, the pointage, I think I started out on, I think I actually started out on 92, and since using it, it really has come down, my score. But I'm kind of understanding more what I'm doing with the car. I don't think I've actually loaded my setup in, and I've got this brake balance. No wonder it's all the way down there, oversteering on corner entry. Oh, what am I doing? Let's get that back up. I'm sure it was around 70, yeah, 75, 72, something like that. But yeah, I'll just show you where that is in your setup. So you go into your options and come down to your HUD, and I've just been using this in the rating practice information car control. You could have it on automatic. Obviously we're on track competency if you're just learning the circuit. Consistency if you're wanting to get consistent lap times, but car control is what I'm currently using, even if it is going up and down. Audio again really is something worth changing so that you can hear like the tyres and stuff like that screeching. Just a good thing to have. I don't particularly like listening to any music while I'm driving. It's just not realistic unless you've got your own music you enjoy listening to. So we'll just quit out of there. I think it was something that someone pointed out in my driver stats, and I think they have gone down since doing that. 9584. So I don't even know if that's gone down or up since I started doing it. But I think my car control was at 92, and it's kind of gone down the way since having that on. But I've enjoyed having it on just to try and learn where I'm going too quick or where I'm not carrying enough speed. And I did try a competition server the other day, and it's still not working. As much as there was only 2 of us in there, I tried a session at Bathurst, but it still isn't recording points for that. So I guess it's another one of those things that just isn't working in the game yet. But anyway, let's move on to the main portion of the video, and we'll look at 3 different setups in the BMW GT3 car. So here we are then at the beautiful Watkins Glen, a fantastic circuit, and a circuit that I really do enjoy testing at. I've spent a number of probably weeks testing here throughout the years of Project Cars 2, and I really do find it's one of those circuits where you can just get the cars set up for, like, it's almost like the best place that I feel that you could set the car up for a base setup. It just seems to have everything. You've got the curbs there just going through the bus stop, you've got the long straight from the start finish line all the way through, you've got a lot of the tight twisty section. It's just a really good place to get the car set up. Now, a lot of people that I've seen online really do seem to be struggling with this back section of the circuit, and it really is a case of just being on the brake pedal and getting the car to turn in, especially through this corner, finding where the car is picking up that inside grip and just getting the car turned through that corner whilst sort of maintaining a bit of acceleration to keep the momentum going through and up the hill. Again, very really stab on the brakes coming into that corner there, just get the front end to turn in, and again a very tricky corner, left-hander sort of just unbalancing the car as you come up and over the hill, and then almost flat out in fourth gear through here, really getting the front end of the car turned in and getting on the power, and another one just carrying so much speed over the line through this corner coming out along the finish straight. So we're going to go into a lap. I'll try and talk you around the circuit, and you'll see where the car stands. Obviously, looking at that car control, some areas you're going to be a bit out of shape where you're trying to carry more speed, but areas you can work on. So braking at the 200 board down into turn 1, try and stay in third gear. It will maintain a much more higher apex speed really. You don't really want to drop down into second if you can help it. Obviously we're going to be absolutely flat out here. If you're hitting 6th, go into 6th gear, but we're going to try and hold 5th gear if we can. Saves coming down, hitting the curb full in the face really with all the tyres. You don't really want to just go with the right hand side of the tyre. You really want to bounce over that full curb and then trying to hook the inside of this curb. Braking at the little gap on the right hand side there. You can drop down to second, or you can try and hold third gear. The car isn't 100% hooked up at the front, but yeah, sweeping in here down into second gear, keep the momentum of the car rolling. We're trying to just carry that speed up the hill, and then again as we come into this next right hander, braking sort of in between the 200 and the 100 board, but we really want to pull that front end of the car in, try and touch that inside curb as well if you can. Just helps drag the car around, and then braking just after the board on the right hand side, again just trying to tuck that nose in and then accelerating as early as we can. Braking just at that 100-yard board, or just getting the car turned in at the 100-yard board. Very hard to really spot a braking point, and again just carrying as much speed through here as I can. Amazing to get into the 144s, and I should think if the track temperature was much cooler, well done, mate. We'd be sort of nudging that 143. So just looking at the track time there, we've got a 35 Celsius track, and still not any of the fastest sector times, but still in a 144.6. A really enjoyable session, did the full 1 hour session. So just looking areas of the setup, obviously you could adjust, get a little bit more through the casters to try and get more front end grip. Obviously looking at the wear on the tyres, not wearing too bad. Definitely the left-handed side of the car takes a lot more wear, and it's the front of the car really that you want to get more grip from. Like I said, it's only been an hour long setup, and really adjusting those fast dampers to handle the curbs. So just moving here now to Bathurst, another one of my absolute favourite circuits. It doesn't really matter which car I'm driving here, I'll always be in a happy place, I think. Getting the car hooked up at Bathurst, I think it was part of a competition server that I was in where I really thought it needed a little bit more work. I think I'd done a little bit of a setup in this back in version 1.74 or 1.79, I really do forget, but again, just driving the BMW around Bathurst is a real pleasure. Obviously getting the power up the hill, it's got a lot of torque in the BMW and it really doesn't struggle up this hill section. Absolutely probably flat out all the way through this section. There really shouldn't be a lift. I think I do a tiny bit of a lift just because I was on a good lap and I just didn't have the bottle to keep the foot down. A little bit of a lift through there, definitely not wanting to pick up any dirt. And then obviously as we come over the skyline down through the corkscrew, you're always going to be lifting and coasting and turning and trying to find the grip where you can really. But coming down into Forest Elbow, sometimes coming down into first gear, down into second sometimes. If you can hold second and you don't feel like you're going to run too wide, I'd probably stay in second gear. But I think for the fast lap I did actually come down into first gear just to tighten up on the apex. Obviously always trying to run as little rear wing as we can at Bathurst because a lot of the overtaking is going to be down the long straights. I do forget the name of the straights, so I'll not even try to remember them. But coming down into the last corner, braking just at this, almost at where the curb finishes on the left hand side, and then just trying to get the car thrown in. Obviously if you can run less rear wing, by all means try it, and obviously don't always go using my brake balance. If you prefer a more forward bias or a more rearward bias brake, please make that adjustment for your own setup. As you can see, the car control there, always trying to better myself. As we discussed during the video, I tend to be looking at that a little bit more these days, but my score just keeps going down. Anyway, braking at just before the 50-yard board, and then trying to hook up that inside, staying in third gear through there. Very important section coming up. Obviously carrying full speed through this corner and then braking in a straight line if we can, down into second gear, hugging that inside and trying to keep the momentum so we can carry that speed up the hill. Absolutely flat out, like I said here, there's no lifts through this section. Foot absolutely buried to the floor. If you can get through this corner with it still buried to the floor, if it will hold, go for it. A tiny little lift as we come over the hill and then back on the power, and then lifting just before we go over the rise, tiny bit of brake just to pull that rear end down, and then back on the power, squeezing and then back on the brake. Coming through this tight and twisty section down to Forest Elbow, get the car nice and straight as we come through here, and then we're on the pedal really hard. Like I say, come down to first gear if you don't feel you can stay in second. Second would probably carry more momentum through that corner. But then again, you stand that risk of running into the wall on the exit. I guess it depends how much confidence you've got in the setup. Like I said, trying to hit that 27.7 psi with the tyres all around if you can, but very hard to judge throughout the entire lap. Braking just before that 100-yard board. You could possibly even carry third gear through here if you've got balls of steel really. That would definitely kill the lap, probably take it just below the 202s. Braking just at the finish to the curb on the left hand side, excuse me, and then overline for a 202.4. Pretty happy with the lap there. If you can be that consistent in a race, I don't think you'll be too far behind. So looking at the lap time, absolutely best sectors throughout. As you can see, we're 40 minutes into the session, run a number of laps. But overall, not my fastest sector time in the middle sector. So just looking over the setup then, you could run more caster if you wanted to. You could maybe take the TC to TC9. Don't feel afraid to add some TC. It's not going to kill you at the end of the day. It allows you to get the power down a little bit earlier. Steering ratio's brought down a tiny bit for those twisty sections. And again, just trying to get through the mountain, softening out the dampers and taking that rear wing down as far as I dare to take it really. So moving to the last circuit on the list, it's got to be the best circuit in the UK, the Silverstone circuit. Absolutely nailing this circuit in the BMW, and another firm favourite. Spending time at any of the circuits on ACC really is, there's just something special about the recreation of these circuits within this game. even coming to circuits that I don't particularly enjoy, ACC just seem to do something special with them. I don't know what it is, but there just feels something different. It just feels like you're really involved at each circuit. So hopefully I'll be featuring myself on this circuit during the forthcoming event that FGTR are going to be running on the 9th and the 10th of December. Hopefully I'll be featuring here in the afternoon race, or possibly at Brands Hatch, but running with the guys the other night, really enjoyed myself, a good bunch of lads, and hopefully if anyone else is still interested in running in that event, I think there's a few seats still available, but any donations, please do find the link in the video description for the forthcoming 24 hours within all the British circuits. But anyway, coming back to the game itself, I don't think it's 100% hooked up, this setup. Again, I don't think I've pushed the limit for front end grip, but still being able to attack the circuit and just have that confidence really to get on the power nice and early. I think I might even be running TC9 in this setup, and I know a lot of people think you should be running a lower traction control, but don't be afraid to use the higher traction control numbers. It just allows you to be on that power nice and early, and you're not lighting up the rear end, wasting time fearing that accelerator. So here we are on the lap. I am actually running, as you can see, TC8, braking at that 50 yard board and getting that front end to pull in as nice as you can, and then just allow the car just to run wide. Coming through, I guess it's Maggots and Beckett's again. I never remember the name of all these corners, but trying to carry third gear all the way through there so that you're out along this hanger straight. I think this is hanger straight. You're carrying as much speed on this straight as you can. Braking at the curb on the left hand side, horrible little bump, but really doesn't seem to affect the BMW too much. Hooking up that inside curb, carrying third gear, the rear end goes very light through that section. Braking at the curb on the right hand side, just there, getting the car slowed down all the way down to first gear. Up into second gear nice and early. Again, the traction at the rear isn't brilliant, so it's very easy with the acceleration, even in TC8. Just mounting the curb here on the left hand side, and if you can throw it in fifth gear, which I've done in this video, by all means do that. I found myself sometimes coming down to fourth gear, but if you can hold fifth, it's brilliant. All the way down to first gear. Still, obviously you can see we've got a little bit of understeer through that corner, and again all the way down to first gear for the very tight left hander, and then accelerating now, as you can see, just dropping the traction control to TC1 and then making sure we're back to TC8 so we're not going to light up those rear wheels the next time we get the power back down again. Just at the board on the right hand side there, braking all the way down to second gear. Carry second gear as much speed as you can, straightening the line into the corner so that we can get back on the power nice and early. Maybe dropping to TC1 once again, get the wheels gripping as much as you can, and then back into TC8 for the next lap. It's over so quickly.
Well done, mate. Personal fastest lap.
As you can see, a few areas I need to look at with the car control, but as you can see, best set to times throughout the entire lap, but very early in this session. Just 10 minutes ran in that session. I'm sure I did a little session before but got dashboarded, but back into the session again, and as you can see, just adjusting those tyre pressures. As you can see, they're a little bit hot at the left rear, maybe a tiny bit on the other right rear as well, so maybe worth looking at, but obviously adjust the tyre pressures according to your track conditions. And you can see there it runs quite nicely over that session, wearing quite nicely across the tyre tread, even at full cambers. Just subtle adjustments really, moving to 1.8 for this setup, which did feature a while ago. So thanks for watching, and until next time, ciao for now.